Well, welcome to Question Marks. I have a question. How creative are you? Well, that happens to be the subject today. Not how creative are you, but just creativity in general. My name is Rob, and joining us for the conversation today are...
Brady Stilmer. We're here to talk about creativity.
That was pretty creative.
I thought so, right?
Grayson McCartney and what they said.
I love how creative this is.
I'm creative, and I'm Hope. McCartney.
Yes, you are.
And I'm Kahm. I'm just here for fun.
As always. And we have a special guest with us today who has real talent. So stick around.
I love you. Bye.
All right, so everyone, please welcome our special guest this episode, Mark Irvin, recently retired. Yeah, recently retired from a long career. I almost said a lifetime, but you're still kicking, so I can't say that yet. A long career educating students on how to find their instrumental voice. You actually educated a couple of my kids, so I appreciate and thank you for that. But his is not a case of those who can do, those who can't teach. I mean, he can do both of them, and actually, he's a very accomplished musician, as you will hear, especially if you stick around for Side B. In fact, before we begin our discussion, I'd like to listen to a little more of your music, Mark.
Driving along a highway, it's just about dusk. Headed home from somewhere where I've been trying to make a buck. Maybe it's something in the wind, could be the color of the sky, but something takes me over and carries me back in time to a time of those wide-eyed dreams, a time of first love, a time of true innocence when we were young.
Okay, Mark. Today we're talking about creativity. You get to answer this question first.
Okay.
Where does your creativity come from? Where do you get your ideas?
Ideas come from everywhere, just being observant and watching human nature anyway is a plethora of material. But where creativity comes from, I think it's in everybody. It's just if you know what it is and how to dig it out. And we were talking earlier before the show about my thesis was a lot of it was on creativity and different types of learning. And basically, every child is born creative. But we literally, especially in this country, educate it out of them up to their neck and then to the head and then to one side. And that's kind of how we've gone down the road. But if you can catch the kids and find out first of all, just ask them what they'd like to do. Yeah. And it starts to come out if they're allowed to do it. That's a big thing. And being creative is also being a risk taker. So you can't be afraid of making mistakes. Not that we want to encourage mistakes, but there was one of my favorite educators, a guy named Dr. Ken Robinson. He said that you will never have an original thought if you're afraid to make a mistake. You will never be original. Mm-hmm. And that was something that kind of stuck with me even later on in life because that's when I found it. But my dad was very, very big on, I didn't start music till I was 17 or 18, and then I didn't go to music school till I was almost 30. But my dad, who was one of the most frugal people you'd ever meet, was so encouraging, and that was a big help with it. So that's about my short answer. I don't, because I don't know where it comes from.
Sure, it just comes.
Yeah, and try to jump on what you think is an idea, but it's a lot of work too. Mm-hmm. And what you know with what you do, that's right. All of us do. It's a lot of work, and creativity comes in all forms of whatever you're working, whatever you're doing. You have to be creative. If not, I feel sorry for you. Right. So,
hey, Kahm, you're a creative dude. Where do you get your ideas?
That's what they say. I don't know. I was born with it.
Wasn't educated out of you.
Not educated out of me. I just had it. No, I mean, yeah, inspiration of wherever, looking around, doing stuff, sleeping helps me. Like, I'll wake up in the middle of the night with that random thought in my head, and I'll roll over, I'll get my phone out, and I get my brilliant idea file out, and I put whether or not it's brilliant, that's to be determined later. But I put whatever that thought is down just so it's saved somewhere. Because you know that thing you wake up in the middle of the night with the best idea ever, you're not going to remember it in 4 hours when you wake up again.
So I think we talked about that on Hope's Dreams episodes. Like when you have a dream, write it down right away, right?
Yep. Otherwise, you're going to forget it, or you slowly forget parts of it as you go. You know, through the consciousness when you wake up.
Have you ever had a creative idea in the middle of the night?
Yeah, I have lots of them. Yeah, just the random stuff. Like, I'm not sure it's going to work out very well.
Right.
But at least I go back and I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's funny. It helps me. I like it.
Gotcha.
But, anybody else likes it? I have no idea. But we'll find out.
I always, when I've done a number of songwriting clinics, and one of the things I always tell everybody is, and I'm sure it's for other disciplines too, but songwriters are idea hoarders. You don't throw anything away. It may go nowhere, but you may go back and use it later or part of it. So just never throw anything away.
Yeah.
Always keep it.
Yeah.
I think the Beatles did that, right? I mean, like McCartney would take a piece of a song, and Lennon would say, "I'm working on this song."
Yep.
It's slam them together.
Find out how to merge them together. Yeah.
But I've been writing songs like, okay, something's not clicking here, but everything else is working well. What? And then I'll go back and files. I've got file drawers full of stuff and cassette tapes. I know I'm old. It's cassettes.
What are these cassettes of which you speak?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm caught up to the modern age now too. But
I got a rewinder right here. We'll get that tape rewinded.
Yes, the old spin it, nice.
But and go back and find something that works, and you just don't throw anything away.
What about you, Hope?
I also am agreeing with the same vein that it comes from everything, but most commonly I would say I think a lot of my creativity probably comes from my experiences that I've had. It's shaped, I don't know, how I think about things and all that jazz. And then
sorry, jazz hands.
Jazz hands were good. Jazz hands were good. I always say all that jazz, and then that happens in my brain. But
That's what I think of too.
When I saw you do that, I almost laughed. So.
other than that, other experiences, my emotions too. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a Cancer, so if you listen to our boys episode, you'll know that. But I am very in tune with my emotions, I would say. Sometimes a little bit too much so. And so a lot of times I get a lot of ideas, whether they be good or bad ones, based off of my feelings and how overwhelming they can be. And then also, not in a copycat kind of way, but other art and stuff like that. I think there's something to be said about being inspired by other people's, I don't know, project or whatever thing you're.
Even other mediums.
Fine
arts. Can
absolutely. Can just like trigger something in your brain. It can cause you to think about something in a different way and create something completely, different. And while it could be, the idea came from that one thing, your product that you've created isn't going to be anything like it necessarily, or it is, but it's still original in your own because you've formulated it into your own, or at least I have. I don't know. That's what I feel like.
I have a question I want to ask about that. We'll get to it later on. It touches on exactly what you're talking about.
Interesting.
It's funny you mentioned it.
That kind of reminded me of like spur of the moment creativity. It's like I spent some time in radio, and sometimes things just don't go as planned, and you got to pivot and you got to figure it out. And figuring that stuff out in the moment of like, okay, we don't have dead air, we're good. But we got to figure out how to get whatever it is on the air that we need, or figure out a workaround or whatever it is. That kind of creativity is pretty cool too. Like, oh, I didn't plan it, but now it's happening and we got to figure it out.
Fair enough.
I mean, out of Omaha, one of the greatest moments of that example was that guy putting a pumpkin on his head and dancing for the Halloween routine.
That was Matt.
Didn't he make America's Got Talent?
He did. Yeah, it's one of the most popular
pumpkin?
Halloween videos for the last 10 years has been Matt dancing with the pumpkin on his head.
That's amazing. Thanks. So he does graphic arts now. He's actually has done a lot of graphic art and creativity for folks out of Hollywood now.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. It was just a bit. He was doing stuff for Fox 42 and just had to fill time. So he said, "I'm just going
Dancing
to put
on a green screen.
Yeah, he said, I'm just going to do this." And so
Hear me out. I'm putting a pumpkin on my head.
he also does comedy. He would do comedy and stuff.
Yeah, that shows.
Yeah, very funny guy, very talented guy. All right, Brady, what about you, man? You do all kinds of creating in your life.
Yeah, because it makes me laugh, and then I just keep going and pushing the envelope. Is typically what it is.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of my stuff really just come from, like, I stand where I am because I stand on the shoulders of giants, like Hope said. So it's just one of those deals where there's a whole bunch of things that you kind of really got to build off of, and you can definitely draw from different mediums as well. I mean, just like drawing a heartbeat and throwing it into your music to have it actually sound like a more rhythmic beat to kind of like match with people.
Right.
So there's a lot of like different meshing over of areas of where you can draw creativity. But a lot of the stuff that I do is typically, do I find this funny? Is it weird? Is it something I can go on this huge bit tangent about in my own brain and keep laughing about and then send it to the other people? If I don't get a response back, typically it's just like, they just don't get it. They'll get it
Well,
later.
it's funny
I've
to
been
you,
on the
right?
other end of that, honestly, where I was just like, I have nothing to say to you about this.
But it's something that you just kind of keep pushing the envelope a little more in your own brain, and then it just doesn't stop. It just draws from different places, saying like, what if this happened, and then a situation that'll run out in your brain, and then you just kind of push the envelope and you say, oh, this more extreme idea is happening here. Realize I'm not using real examples, because if I did real examples, I don't want to push real examples now. Because
That's the is it weird question. If it's a no, it's when you quit.
Yeah.
If it's a weird yes, that's when you pursue it, right?
yeah, that's exactly it. That is exactly
On the flow chart of ideas. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's exactly
Is it weird? Yes. Let's follow that
Let's go.
path.
Bingo.
What about you, Gray? Where do you get your ideas from? Where's your creativity flow from?
I wish I knew. Mine's more of like, I just try to, I mean, you've heard of brain itches? Like a song itches your brain the right way.
Oh,
kind of.
sure. Yeah.
That's kind of where it goes. Like my brain will itch for something, and I don't exactly know what it is, and so I keep trying things until I scratch the itch. Like this podcast, for example. Like I was like, I really wish I had like people to have weird, conceptual conversations about. Like not where we are talking about ourselves, but not like telling, what's your day like? What's the weather like? I was like, we can go deeper than that.
Sure.
And like I was lacking that. And so I needed to scratch my brain. I needed to scratch that part of my brain. And the same thing happens for the stuff I'm very bad at creating. Like we talked about recently, I'm learning how to, not learning, I guess I mess around on guitar quite a bit. And I've come up with like a song that I can play on one string the whole time. Because I'm not talented. I don't know any chords or anything like that. Like I can figure it out maybe eventually, but like I haven't put any dedication behind learning guitar.
Smoke on the water. So
But
help me
like,
God,
that's
Grayson.
where I started.
Is it really?
Yeah, I was like, all right, these work. I know this works, so what can I do from there? And I'm like, I just need to keep scratching that itch, and I keep following until, I scratch my brain off, I guess, essentially.
Wow. Nice. All right, so let me get to that question then. Hope and Brady.
Well, you got to answer the question. This is side A, brother.
Yes, I will. It's everything you guys said. Exactly. And it actually, I will say, I don't know if I've ever had a creative idea that is solely mine.
Good
I don't
answer.
think
Next
anyone
question.
has.
Sorry.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I say that because I wanted to lead into this question, but it's actually true. Mark Twain had a quote. It's kind of a long quote. There is no such thing as a new idea. It is impossible. We simply take a lot of old ideas and put them into sort of a mental kaleidoscope. We give them a turn, and they make new and curious combinations. We keep on turning and making new combinations indefinitely, but they are the same old pieces of colored glass that have been in use through all the ages. So that's what he said. Einstein says creativity is seeing what others see and thinking what no one else ever thought. Mm-hmm. So do you guys agree with that? So basically, Twain is saying, and they're both saying, there's no original idea. It's something we've all seen before.
No.
Can you have a unique idea? Can you be uniquely creative?
I think they're saying there's no original material, but there are original ideas.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's where the interpretation I'm taking out of that.
Okay.
Because with the kaleidoscope and a different view of the world is definitely not Like, this is the material object you're viewing, not the actual idea you're coming up with in your brain. It's not the intent, it's the actual physical fact pattern that's in front of you. So that's how I guess creativity can be behind. There's this whole world around you, everyone's interpreting their own way. It's you that makes up the new creative idea. So yes, you can make your own creative ideas, but you can't create the fact patterns, or I guess you can change the fact patterns, right? But you can't like create the fact patterns around the world that change those ideas.
To make it uber simple, say you are making a cake, you could change the amount of ingredients. You wouldn't change the ingredients. You would change how you put them in.
That makes it simple. I'm sorry.
That makes sense.
Did it make sense?
You know what a cake looks like. You know how it needs to be, but you can decorate it. In
You
different
can
ways.
change different flavors and
What
all
about
that,
you have only 26 letters in the alphabet? And we can't make any more. They're all done. All the sounds are accounted for.
Yeah.
But that's what you have to work with, right?
Yes.
You got 26 letters to make all the words that ever existed. Go.
There you go. Yes.
Right? Is that a better, simpler analogy?
I don't know. I think we're
getting simpler.
Yes. Basically, do you agree with Einstein?
Seems smart. Yeah.
Seems like, Is your creativity unique? Is basically the question.
I think there's layers. I'm gonna say.
Okay,
I
fair
think
like a cake.
there's no like a cake, exactly, like a cake.
Cake.
There's
That's all I'm thinking about now is
Yum.
cake. Yeah.
there's no way to ever know if something is an original thought, right? Like, I mean, there's of course thoughts that are like, yeah, somebody else has thought this, but there's those thoughts that you really think are unique. There's no official way to ever tell if somebody has thought of that before, but I think you can have genuinely original thoughts in the society / your surroundings and stuff like that. So like, say you're surrounded by a group of people who think very linearly in one way or the other, and then you think of the opposite way. You think of something the opposite way. That is an original thought based off of the fact that everything that you've been experiencing and subjected to and exposed to, I guess, all of those things that are supposed to shape who you are and your opinions and stuff like that. If you then stray from that path, that is kind of like an original thought in my head. But yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like layers. Like it is. I think there's no way to ever tell if there's an original. Every thought is ever going to be an original thought. I think we could go into this whole there's like a shared consciousness thing if we want to go super far deep into things. But I don't know. I think the possibility that your unique thought has never been thought before is probably very, 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 very small. But I think there is something to be said about being able to think for yourself originally, uniquely, in an environment where
outside of the mold.
Yes.
That you were.
Yeah. Think outside the box. Not everybody is able to do that.
If I may interject,
go ahead,
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry, but I realize that this is literally what I'm looking to do for my career is determine people who have new ideas.
It is literally your.
I did think, like, okay, I probably should have a genuine idea and thought about my future career path.
That's super funny.
Because there is literally novelty as a 102 idea and 103 obviousness or direction in the world of patents is in the world of intellectual property and getting protection on ideas, which there are these weird exceptions. Like you can't patent abstract ideas, basically like E = MC² mathematic formulas. But things that are genuinely unique, that there is this large world of prior art. And prior art is basically something that has been made before, been patented before, been put on YouTube or available to the public beforehand in this vast world of the internet we have currently. And if you can find it beforehand, then you can't get a new patent on the idea. So there's this wild, and by the way, that's a very big oversimplification of the entire patent landscape, and also like copyright, I suppose, as well too. But you can kind of trace these new original ideas that are coming out because they literally have to say what is prior art beforehand. They don't have to, but they have to argue between an actual examiner and them to say what is a new idea, and then to get the protection. And I guess that is also in the United States too, so there could be a new idea elsewhere in the world. But like there is this one weird, unique space with inventions and science, or with methodology, or in the business world itself, that you can actually find where a new idea is technically coming out each and every day via prior art and patents. And then again, even you can't even say that that's the first person that had the idea. It's the first person in the United States, at least, to patent the idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Who went
exactly
through
it.
with it, yeah.
So you don't even know if you are the first person, but you can definitely tell what the first person to patent it was.
And because of all that new technology and information sources, that means your job's also going to be a lot more lawsuits.
It sure is. It
gets harder every year, right?
It most definitely is. It gets harder and easier. It ebbs and flows.
So, Mark, is your creativity unique? The songs you do you think they're unique? Do you ever feel when you're playing a song, you get a little, hey, this reminds me of a riff in whatever?
Yeah, it's unique to me, kind of like Hope was saying. It's my perspective and stuff. But there are also times you have to be careful. And I've thought I had the greatest song ever, and then it's like, wait, that's not mine.
It's Dreams by Fleetwood Mac.
Except I know more than 2 chords.
Nice.
Take that, Fleetwood and/or Mac.
Trade that for your paycheck. No, that is because of all. You're getting so many new ideas and people putting out new ideas. That it's great to listen to that, but you have to be more careful. But with Hope's, again, it's your perspective, and that's what can make it completely unique. Oh, I never thought about approaching it from this idea. Oh, this person went through that. That's why this works. So, yeah, it's so subjective. That's why it's hard to prove unless it's really blatant. And you were talking about copyrights, and you can't copyright chord progressions.
Correct.
Lyrics, yes, even to an extent, though that's got some flexibility. You just have to be careful what you do that. But so it's unique to me and original to me. And I'm pretty good about going, okay, I can truly put this out because I'm not going to get in any trouble.
Have you thought about it before you put out your songs?
Always.
All the time?
Always, yep. And sometimes I hope, hey, somebody stole my song. I could use the money. That's great. Hasn't happened yet.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
They could happen. Well, so I do what's called Zen guitar, right? So I go home. If I just want to blow off steam, I will play my guitar, and I'll come up with various chord progressions that, maybe I'll make a song. I'll tell my wife, I'll say, hey, does this sound good? She goes, yeah, write it down. I never write it down. I never write them down because that's, to me, it's the art of making it. It's not art of keeping it.
You can't write music.
I can't.
Well,
I
no,
can't actually.
still record it somehow.
I can, and I've actually written a couple of the bar charts out before, but then I'm like, whatever. I look at it later and I said, that was just stupid. I was being pretentious. I thought this could turn into something. But anyway, so I don't write them down, but then I forget them. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so then the question is, because I have forgotten it, when I was playing it, I was creating it, but then when I forgot it, is it still created? Is it still a creation?
Yes.
Yeah, because then I'm sure if you played it again, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that was it.
No, that never
Or
happens.
if you stumble across. Now, Kahm was saying that too, always just put stuff down, which you do.
Yeah.
But there are some writers I know, and I just don't buy into that philosophy. They'll say, well, if I forgot it, then it wasn't worth remembering anyway. I don't buy that because could be the whole thing great or snippets of it great. So from now on, do me a favor and do yourself a favor, record it somehow.
No.
Phone. Okay.
But it does.
It's not going to happen.
Look, if I'm going to go for stealing stuff, I don't have a source.
I'll just appreciate the song and go, I wish I'd written that. Oh, I did. Yeah.
I mean, it's a creation. It literally exists at one point in time.
But it's gone. So
it doesn't matter. It existed at one point in time.
So that makes it creation.
Yeah. If a tree falls in the forest, no one hears it. The tree still fell.
Right.
If a husband says something in the forest and a woman's not around, is he still wrong?
Bam, bam.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a married man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. That was in our wedding vows.
You got married in the forest?
That'd be cool. Soon after, though, I was there.
And nobody heard it.
Hello. All right, let me drop a couple more quotes on you. 3 quotes for you about creativity and the process. Ray Bradbury, great author, said, thinking is the enemy of creativity. famous yet emotionally self-tortured poet Sylvia Plath, who coincidentally was in school with my father in elementary school, wrote, "The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt." And Bruce Lee, whoa,
We Thank you.
famous martial arts.
Out of all three of them, that was the one we knew.
That was you don't know Ray Bradbury? No, we'll talk.
I had
Anyway,
an education.
He had to make writing noises when he sent the other two people.
That's true. That's
You
true.
know?
That's true. Nice. Bruce Lee once said, "The creative process is a process of surrender, not control." Think about all those things. So basically, it's thinking. Does thinking get in the way of your creative process? Oh, I'll leave that question there. Does thinking get in the way? Hope you're nodding hard. So
Oh, go ahead.
I think thinking gets in the way of way too much in my life, but absolutely in the way of my creative process, because I'll think of a cool idea and stuff like that, but then logistics enter my brain, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking myself into a spiraling pit of, oh, this could never happen because this, and this, you know, like the
But
logistics don't
you're
work out.
actually on the right track. I think the thinking initially could get in the way if you overthink things, but if you come up and create an original or a good idea, you have to go back to thinking to develop it. Mm-hmm. That's the combination.
I think there's a balance. I just think I take it too far, where like I then don't even try to
get
do
anxious
anything.
about it.
I get extremely anxious about it, and I just give up instead of just like trying to do it and then running into those problems and, you know, figuring those problems out when I'm getting there, versus I just like don't even start because I've thought about it too far in a place that, or in a way that I don't even need to think about it, into a place that I don't need to think about it. But
Great.
yeah.
I mean, I was going to answer. I didn't get to answer the last question, so I was going to do the same kind of thing.
Wow.
Well, same kind of thing. Cam didn't either. No, it's the same answer for me. It's like, yes, thinking gets in the way. Could you imagine? Like, there's original thoughts all the time. I think there are original thoughts all the time, or at least there were. Could you imagine the first person who started singing? Like, just randomly? Like, the first human to ever just belt out something, and people are like,
Shut up!
that had to take an extreme amount of confidence and no second thought to be able to do that.
How do you think it?
The
How do you
first
think it
person to
worked?
milk a cow?
Oh.
Ew.
Do you think someone
Yeah,
thought
what were
about
you
that? They were
doing?
like, oh, should I do this? No, they were like, I think I'm going to milk this thing.
Drink it.
Yeah, then it'll help my bones.
My bones.
So yeah, I think that thinking is actually, I think thinking is the crux first of creativity, and it's also the downfall of creativity. You have to think to be creative. You can't just take things at surface value and then be a creative person. I don't think that makes sense.
Or is it the overthinking?
The overthinking, yeah, it's
So
both.
thinking starts it, and then the overthinking like
Ends
squashes it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even end it.
the
You still have the
self-doubt
creative thought. You just don't
Right.
Yeah.
publish it or produce it or whatever it is.
Well, there's a thought that can perfectionists then be perfectly creative?
There's no perfect.
Can they just be? I mean, I know they can be creative. Everybody can be creative, but can perfectionism then get in your way? I mean,
Oh,
do you ever look at do you work a song to death?
I've gotten to the point, I've been doing it so long where I know when to step away.
Okay.
It helps. But I do know perfectionists that have gone down that road, and they struggle because if it's not perfect, they don't want to pursue it. And like Hope said, there is no. It's humans. There's nothing that's perfect. And if you can accept that, that's when you can take the next step. But I know even musicians that they'll play what's on the page, and that's it. They're great at it, but it's like, nope, there's no interpretation because that's what it's supposed to be. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what does stepping away look like for you? So, whenever you're coming up to reaching that point, what does that look like?
It starts to get worse. And so I will literally walk away for days, weeks, months. I know that I've got a good idea somewhere in there, but I'm overthinking it. I'll move on to another project or something that I've been assigned to do. You know, when I get assigned to write, I've done some commercial campaigns for like Nebraska Furniture Mart, some school districts. That's pretty. I've got some leeway, but it's like, all right, this is where I can stay in the parameters for a while. Then I'll go back to and that sometimes really helps. Or just being out and about and doing something will click.
Yeah.
You know, it's you still want to keep working on it. Henri Matisse, I think was his name. It's a
The painter?
Yes, he had a great line that I've been using forever. And it said that you can't wait for inspiration. Inspiration comes while you're working. And I always thought that's a great thing because there'll be something else I'm working on. And like that idea I shelved last month, this is it. And I'll go back and that's my process.
Yeah.
There is no one way. There's no one way.
I like it. It's like an itch on the brain. Throwing it
Itch
back.
on the brain. Anybody else want to chime in on that one, or can we move on? I don't want to leave anybody out.
You already did.
Which when I say don't want to, I mean I don't care if I do. So
I think I touched on the small thing that I wanted to say, but just the overthinking is the killer
Yep.
of the thought
I think
itself.
you're right.
Yeah, talking about surrender. The weird one that got me was Bruce Lee's surrender and trying to figure out what he actually meant by that.
I would imagine.
Give in to.
Well,
Yeah,
instead
give up
of,
control.
Instead of
Yeah.
Give up
overthinking, you're like,
control.
this is happening.
Yeah,
I got to follow this. You know, instead of being like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be thinking
like
this.
give
This
away
won't
from
be
societal
perfect. This
standards,
stuff.
do towards what
Yeah.
makes me happy,
Well, it's just-
and then
Yeah, let the pen do what the pen does.
Let the pen do what
and
the pen
not let
does.
your hand do what it should be doing. It's like, oh, let the pen draw it.
Right.
It's like a kind of a thing.
Yeah, because I think some people may be terrified. I know they're terrified looking at a blank canvas,
Yes.
right? They're like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
And then, well, you start at the beginning,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's you just start and then
Yeah.
figure out what to go from there. I think that's what he was saying.
But can you imagine Bruce Lee doing that with martial arts, looking at you as a blank canvas and how he's going to kill you? That's terrifying.
He was a nice guy, from what I understand.
He definitely
I don't
was,
think he
but-
would kill me.
Where do you think his creativity came from?
Killing?
Killing middle-aged men.
Self-protection. No, self-protection. Self-protection. But like, protection, all the martial arts. It's just a different mentality that
I do,
I've never
yes.
had. That
Enter
it's
the
the whole
dragon,
point is
You're
yes.
not supposed to create violence.
I think there was a
you can
dragon
create new
involved.
forms of
Enter the dragon.
He entered the dragon, and that's what happened.
That's the one with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in it, by the way.
With that footprint on his chest. Yeah.
Huge Kareem footprint right on. Anyway,
what?
look it up. It's a thing. Okay. Would you rather have more creativity in your life? Would you rather have more creativity or more intelligence? That's your
Are those
choice.
different things?
I'll take it ahead.
Discuss amongst yourselves.
I'm going to go ahead with creativity to start with. I think that's a easier line to pick than intelligence because as technology goes further and further ahead, we don't need to have nearly as much intelligence as we used to have. Like, we just didn't need that much information beforehand. So having creativity to kind of put into the intelligence feed is going to be more beneficial.
I guess it would depend on how you define intelligence, the ability to think and
That's exactly
solve
my
problems.
issue. There's so many
adapt,
different types of
that's-
intelligence.
right?
That's
So many
fair.
different kinds of creativity.
Yeah, and there's creative intelligence where
Right.
you can come up with something out of nothing. Or you
So
can
which
come
one's
up
yours?
with- intelligence. Intelligence inspires creativity,
Okay.
in my opinion. And there's different types of, obviously, intelligence. There's math intelligence, which is, I would argue, not as creative, but it can be at some point.
No, it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, you get to, like, conceptual math, that's tough. Like, formulas people haven't solved, I get that. But, like, doing math is very much formulaic, and literally formulaic, where it's like, this leads to this, right? Creativity is that gap where there's, like, this leads to what? And then you answer that. I think there's creative intelligence that bridges that gap.
I'm going to push back just a little bit. Just
Please do.
if I may, because there is that weird point of creativity that has no form of intelligence whatsoever, where just something blossoms from nothing that doesn't need that
Can you name
intelligence.
one?
That, oh my goodness, Frank Zappa talks about this one sister based band where they had absolutely no experience in musical thought, like no musical experience whatsoever.
And experience is
and they
not
created,
intelligence.
but they didn't have like they had no way to build on any of the musical.
The Beatles said they didn't know any chords, and they just did things that made them.
Frank Zappa also said, "Don't eat the yellow snow."
That's also
That's
true.
intelligent. That's intelligence.
I'm just
Wise
impressed that
words.
somebody your age threw down
Frank Zappa.
Yeah, but like his the pure form of music that he said it was this sister band that had no musical experience whatsoever with just going out and playing 3 different instruments and making music.
Yeah,
like saying
but
what the purest form of music.
There's
what it
natural
was.
intelligence.
There
isn't learned intelligence. I mean, there is learned intelligence. There's also natural intelligence.
But
There's
then where does that break off from creativity?
That's exactly my point, man.
Son of a gun.
I'm just going to go get some popcorn.
Yeah, they're infighting now. This is good stuff.
This is good.
That's a good point.
Hope,
Hate whenever I make
would you rather have more creativity or more intelligence in your life?
I mean, it's hard to, after that little argument there, it's hard to combat. But I would ultimately, my impulse is to say I would have more creativity in my life, because when I think surface levelly about creativity and
Surface levelly.
you know how I speak.
I love it.
But when I think that one-dimensionally, sure. About gosh, the train has left my
That's
brain.
right. Would you like us to move on? Come
No,
back?
just
Okay.
re-say the
Would
question
you
one more
rather
time.
have more creativity?
Thank you. Okay, there we go. So I think. Sorry, my brain just doesn't.
I get it.
I just need a couple of words. You know.
It's a long work day for you
Yes.
too. So I get it.
But
Yeah.
anyways, so when I think one-dimensionally about creativity versus intelligence, I think about like in high school or school in general, the arts versus like STEM programs, right? I do believe in STEAM. I think that should definitely be a
Absolutely.
Can you
bigger
explain
thing.
STEAM
And
for people?
yeah, so like STEM is the whole like
Science,
technology, engineering, and mathematics. And then adding the A is the arts. So basically, just the idea that arts are just as important to include in education as all of these other things. But when I think about the two separately, and I think about the people that I know who were involved in arts in some way versus not involved in the arts in some way, the people who I know who were involved in the arts are able to think much more independently. They're much more unique. They have much more distinct characters. They have a lot more personal opinions that are strong and that they can talk about like on levels that we talk about on here and stuff like that, versus people who haven't necessarily tried to go down the path of any kind of artistic I don't know,
Mediums, yeah.
stimulation or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. They tend to, in my experience anyway, tend to think more sheep-like, like herd-like mentality almost. There's not a lot of uniqueness in, you can see it in how they dress, how they design their life, how they act, how they interact with other people. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. And when I'm thinking one-dimensionally about creativity versus, but I also agree that you need intelligence in order for creativity and all of that jazz.
Sure.
It is a much more three-dimensional topic, but
it's really the right.
Yes.
That's kind of how you answered the very first question. I was like, we can end the episode there.
yeah,
Right?
there we go.
But, can I ask a follow-up question real quick? What is
Seeing no objections.
sheep dress like?
A sheep dress. Oh
A
god.
lot of wool.
Badly.
Nice. There it is.
I don't know how
Like
to say this
polo
in like
tucked in?
non-offensive ways. Like I don't.
Offensive ways.
They would dress like you dress.
No.
There it is.
All right.
Just like
All right.
a lot of like.
That's enough. No more dad jokes.
Way to ram that one home.
I lied, you son of a gun.
Let's go all the way around the horn here, huh?
Oh, there we stop. Stop.
I don't know. People who like they get they formulate their style and their personality and stuff just based off of what they see as popular on.
Conformism.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
As an
like
educator for so many years,
you see it. Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
see it happen all the time.
And I
All the different
remember
trends and stuff.
especially middle school kids.
So what do you want, Mark? You want more creativity or more
Seriously,
intelligence? You can't
what they're
say
doing.
what they said.
No, but to answer my question, I'm going to piggyback off what Hope said. When I was doing research for my master's, I ended up contacting and actually physically calling him on the phone, which we used to do that.
That's crazy.
How does that work?
He was the head of the engineering department at Georgia Tech, and it was about his scholarship offers and his recruiting. He said he always goes after fine arts majors. Because, and I asked him, I said, why? I said, don't you look at, the 4.0 math and science? He said, yeah, we always have to look at them. But when I get fine arts people in, they already know how to work with people. They already know how to, they're not afraid of failure and trying and just moving on to the next thing. And it surprised me at the time, because they have a huge engineering.
Yeah, which is yeah.
And it's like, so it kind of justified, made me feel good. It's like, all right, because being an artist, which you are too, you get some pushback from society. It's like, what's your fallback plan? It's like, well, I already know how to be poor, so let's roll with it.
Nailing that.
I couldn't have said that better myself.
So if you had to pick one, would you rather be more creative or more intelligent?
right at this point, creative, because that's my passion.
Right.
So I'd have to go that way. But I'm hoping the combo would come.
Agreed. All right, Cam, what do you think?
Yes, I was thinking like, so if I choose one or the other, can I accrue points for the other? Like if I choose creativity, do I get to accrue intelligence as I go along using my
Are
creativity?
you playing D&D?
You don't ditch the other one based on the
Right.
question. You don't ditch
Like
them.
I would imagine my creativity would get better because now I'm accruing some intelligence with every little bit of creativity that I'm doing, versus if I have intelligence, I'm still being creative within that intelligence. I would get better at my creativeness.
So,
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Is that a part of it,
That's
or
what we
is it
were
just?
no, I think you're right.
You got one or the other.
No, in the middle of the night, did you think of the word accrue and decided to use it as many times?
It's on my calendar. Yeah, my daily calendar.
Question marks bingo card.
The word accrue has been used.
Word of the day, toilet paper.
Use that at least once every other day, but
Well, that's actually a great question, because if you're more if you're more intelligent, your creativity would accrue, but if you're more creative, would your intelligence accrue?
I would.
Yes.
I think at least in an experience level,
I think it would have to,
Type
because you're
situation,
going to
yeah.
hit that ceiling.
right?
And the
And the
more
creativity
other
will
info
stop
you
at some
bring in,
point unless
yep.
you get smarter in some facet. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So I choose both.
Cam won the episode. He won.
He did.
What a good
Nice.
question. Everyone chose both.
Well, you guys had to have a little, spat and then, or
For
debate.
the
Yeah.
word tiff. Thank you.
Nice.
Did you answer it?
Yes. So then the next question is,
It was the best answer around
This
too.
is the worst.
I'm agreeing with that. I actually want, this is kind of cool where today's society is going. Monty Python, legendary comedian John Cleese once said, if you want creative workers, give them enough time to play.
Yep.
Some businesses seem to be more receptive to this, right? They're creative outlets during work hours. Workers don't have to sit in a cubicle for 8 or 9 or 10 hours, right? You've got ping pong tables, you've got whatever. I think we can all agree that's probably a good thing, right? You can let your mind wander. Question is, can you go too far down that road, and where is that too far? Mark, what do you think?
Well, and again, all my years in education,
Right.
a lot of that was tried to be implemented along the way, but it went too far. And then it's like, hey, we're gonna have all of you do this hands touchy and feely, and that's too. People aren't comfortable with that. They just need some other form of getting away from what you're doing to be somewhat creative. Whether that's, hey, I'm going for a run, I'm gonna go swim, just a lot of people need to move to think. And again, if you're stuck in a cubicle all day, that's why that's not conducive. But I think a lot of people, I can speak for education, have gone too far to do that because they want it to be a team building in the end, because that's their product and mission. And I recently started, and were you both in my drumming class, my African drum class? You were.
I was in. Yeah.
I started doing that with companies, team building things, because they don't have to do this touchy-feely thing, and we'll do grooves and something will fall apart. And I say the reason this fell apart is because that fell apart. This has to be there in order for this to work. And it's a roundabout way of having them be creative and actually asking them, come up with any groove, and we're going to build off of it. So it's been a really nice learning experience for me too, because all the meetings that, I don't know, in your industry, if you have to go to a lot of those, and you can't go too far.
Right. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you absolutely have to let them play. I think that if passionate people are let out to play, they'll think about that stuff outside the box.
But when do you
literally the box?
Can you give them unfettered freedom, or do you pull them back in?
Unfettered completely. Like, hey, we're hiring you.
We're
and
trusting
maybe
you.
Give me an idea.
I'm hiring you. Your job is to accomplish this. Knock yourself out.
No.
I'll see you once that's done.
No, you need to set expectations a little bit. You need to
Some timetable.
Yeah, you need to set a timetable. You need to set expectations of what something that would work looks like. Like, it's not like we got into the drumming class and we could just bang on it and expect something to come together. We need to have some sort of expectation of what the final product looks like. But if you're sitting in a situation like a cubicle, you're you're thinking about things that are like, on line of what everyone else is thinking, because you're in one spot. If you're in a company or whatever, you're like, okay, we do this, so we need to do this, we need to do this. If you have some freedom to get outside of that cubicle, of mental cubicle, let's call it, you can, if you're passionate about what you're doing, you will have ideas naturally. But you won't have them while you're in your cubicle, in your mind cubicle, in my opinion. You'll be stuck on this formula. But if you can explore outside that formula and you're passionate about it, you will come up with new ways to approach what you're trying to do. And I think that requires freedom, because if you don't have that freedom, then you're obviously going to stick to the formula the whole time. And there are plenty of people who aren't passionate about it.
Right.
Like they wouldn't, like they go to work, they go home, and they're like, I'm done. You know, and I'm kind of jealous sometimes.
They clock out and
I'm
leave work at work.
And that's not saying they're not creative in other areas. It's just like in that example, they're not, thinking about how to approach their work in different ways. And I'm kind of jealous a little bit, because like you want to turn your brain off at some point. I'm sure you get that. I'm sure you get that. And probably other people here get that. It's just, but sometimes you can't. And if you can't, that's where the better ideas come in, or at least the newer ideas, which you can, form into better ideas through experience. Going back to give Brady some credit there.
Mark Twain says there's no new ideas, by the way.
You brought that up already.
How does he know anyway?
Brady, what do you think? Can you go too far? Can you? Or is it? Should we go really far? Just give them unfettered freedom to do whatever they want.
Do you know what you call a person that has unfettered control? Unfettered free creative control in an organization? A shareholder. And it's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's someone that you will give people that you're trying to onboard into your organization. By the way, not a big business guy. This is just my view on the world and what business is like. That needs to be said first.
Duly credit.
Okay.
Noted.
Yes. So if you are looking to bring someone into your organization, of course you can't give them unfettered creative control. You have to say, these are the locations you can be creative in. These are the hard lines and rules that you need to stick to. Yep. Like if you're going to tell someone to play a trumpet, you got to let them know there's 3 valves. You need to blow in the horn. You need to follow the reins. And heck, whenever you get a free solo, whenever we're playing, that's when you're going to be creative. I'll send you the rings for when you can play the solo. That's when you play the solo. Or like in
Did this happen in your earlier life? Is it?
You think I play trumpet that good? No, I was trust me. I was the guy. I was support for the. I was support.
Okay.
We had
Support for the solo.
Yeah, no, we had a pretty good trumpet player at Alma. I was not that guy.
That's what I heard. I heard
He was on
pretty good.
He played the cornet.
The musical world talks about the really good trumpet player from Alma.
Well, no, I mean he was better than I was. He was fine. He was fine. He was
probably good.
Sorry, did we knock you off your
But
process?
yes,
You
but
twist
anyways,
the knife there, I think was it.
exactly. So like if in that lane you're the conductor, you're not going to give anyone full creative control. Whenever you get to full creative control, you are the conductor. You are quote unquote the shareholder of your business. You're the one that's making the big decisions up to move in. Like in the legal profession, you'll have someone come in and they'll work for you as a clerk, or they'll work for you and then they'll maybe become an associate attorney, and then they'll become a senior partner, and after becoming a senior partner, then become a shareholder. And that's literally just every single layer that comes with, number one, more liability, but also way more free creative freedom. And in that same line, legal is one of those weird places where you have all these prior precedents are set before you that you have to follow. But then again, there's always a little bit of wiggle room with arguments and creativity that you can bring in. And I think if I had to say someone coming in this long roundabout answer of where that freedom and creativity comes in, it comes down towards, are you going to be the big creative direction we're going forward in our company? If yes, and you're going to be on my side, I'm going to give you unfettered creative control because I trust you that we're going to move forward.
Okay.
If you're going to be working and kind of building up to that point, you are going to have structured control so we can have your creative direction move towards your strengths, but we need you to be lined in, because if you go off on the wild racks, we're the ones that's going to be liable for your decisions.
Right. Yeah. Hope? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's all about discipline, genuinely. I think you need freedom, as you guys were kind of saying, especially as a creative person. You can't always operate best in constraints and stuff like that. But if you have, at least I know me as a creative person, a majority are mostly creative person, I mean, I know that in my times of life where I do struggle with discipline, it can go too far. Like the freedom can go too far, and then it is a detriment to other people, or like I'm not, me or somebody else isn't, performing to the best of their abilities, and not showing up in the ways that they need to, or blah, blah, blah. You know, things can fall apart for sure. So it's all about the discipline that you're able to have in that freedom. Because if you are somebody who is able to be super self-disciplined and, you know, show up consistently and know, hey, these are going to be my times of play, but these are going to be my times of work, and able to understand that balance and create that really well, then awesome. But I don't think that that exists in every single person, because I know it doesn't exist in me.
No question.
So,
Yeah. Kahm?
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think there's also something to be said about the lack of creativity. You know, being the lack of the ability to be creative. You know, like going back to the cubicle thing, or even like, you know, when when I was a kid, we always played games. You know, board games, this, word games, that, whatever it was, Yahtzee. You know, we're learning stuff as we're doing this. We don't know we're learning how to multiply by 6 or whatever. But then I played games with some people that they just don't get it. Like they never played when they were a kid, so they just don't quite have that side of the brain to them. You know, like they understand the game, but they don't know how to play the game and all the idiosyncrasies of the game to help them win.
Sure.
Or just at a base level, they just don't get it. So they didn't get that as a kid, probably. And that kind of translates into their adulthood too. So they still don't know how to have the fun to be creative at the same time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's an important part. You got to have a hell of a good balance of both, I think. Yeah.
That's kind of what Mark was talking about with the Georgia Tech
Yeah.
guy, right? You got to have that some.
Yep.
Hey, let me ask you, when you create something, you are creating it, right? AI is now a thing, right? So it's creating things as we speak. We can debate that. Are we squeezing out creativity with the increase in AI?
Yes.
All right, go. Why?
I use AI like at least once a day.
Okay.
At least once a day, whether it be to write a radio script or to peruse through something, make a transcript, and like find whatever I need in there, whether it be a clip out for a certain show or whatever it might be. But I use it on a daily. Sure, it helps me save some time, but AI still needs human touch to be correct in many facets. Like, you can say, hey, write me a radio script for the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and it'll spit something out like, oh, that's close, but that's not what I was looking for. And you could refine those parameters a little bit. So I guess more the skill would be refining the parameters of what you want AI to do,
Right.
as opposed to just, I could write that script myself and, you know, a little bit more time, but I could write it the way I want to have it be said or stated.
I'm wondering if you just
I'm losing a little bit of my creativity
That's what I'm saying.
using AI so much.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Creativity.
I got you. So
Yeah, I don't need to use my creativity to write said script. I could have AI do it, and then I refine it myself. But I already know that what I want it to say, so I can refine what it spits out to match what I, in my head, have it.
So it's not
already kind of built
squeezing
to.
out your creativity. It's just making your creativity easier to get to and quicker to get to.
Flexing a different muscle in the creativity, I guess.
You're just giving it's mundane. It's kind of filling in just the baseline.
Yeah, like I need basic, and then I can figure out the rest of it.
Right.
On at least that example, but
Gotcha.
like if I needed to do a transcript for me, that's not my world at all. I'm not gonna.
It's based
I'm not
on
a stenographer, you know.
based on someone else's creativity. Like AI is not based on nothing. It's based on the things that humans have already put forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do think it's squeezing out creativity, and it's mostly discouraging creativity, I think is a better way to put it, is like, why would I paint a picture of something when AI can pump it out in 30 seconds?
Because you didn't do it.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if I did it. And for at my level, because name a famous painter that's around right now, like puts out famous paintings. Famous artist.
I don't know.
I know there isn't.
My wife.
I mean, there are good painters,
Banksy.
but like,
Thank you.
I guess
Banksy.
famous artist.
I'm out.
Brownie
Yeah.
points there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And like abstract stuff and sculpting and stuff like that, I still think those people exist for sure. But like a realist, like that's gone. It's already been done perfectly, also. So that kind of makes it hard. But I don't think it squeezes out creativity. It's going to encourage a new wave of creativity. Because I don't think
So
creativity.
you said
ever
it did
ends.
squeeze out
It
creativity.
squeezes out. I think it discourages people from being creative in the mediums in which we were traditionally creative.
but it is
But there are going to be people. I don't think creativity can ever end. There are going to be people who can do things with AI or program an AI to do certain things. That's a creative process itself. It just won't look like what we think creativity looks like.
Yeah, what I think AI is doing a lot more nowadays is taking out the mundane activities to allow for a little more creativity.
Which,
I think, you guys are exactly right on that. But I think my favorite thing is I wish I knew more like avant-garde artists to say this is completely off the beaten path, because AI is literally the opposite of that. So if you say make avant-garde material, what would that give you? And you have to do the opposite of that, right? Because you have to do literally the opposite of what it puts
should just
out.
explode.
You should do that.
See what happens.
You should ask it.
Right? Just like how do you...
AI, divide by 0 and it explodes.
Stop being
Power goes
AI.
out everywhere.
It's just, I don't know how you can build on something that is completely abstract with no realization of anything we've had in the human medium, if everything that AI uses is drawn from the human medium.
But does it learn too?
Sentient?
It says it has
not fully
learning.
sentient, but like, it'll. If you ask it so many things so many times, it'll be like, "Oh, I know what you want."
Yeah, predictive. It's like predictive text.
Predictive text almost. Yeah.
Yeah, predictive text. But I mean,
There's some people also think, you say something in the room, Google's listening, right?
I turn that off on my phone. It's definitely a thing. It listens.
but I think the toughest thing is saying that like AI is
There's a
definitely like
button. I swear to God.
AI is.
Swear to God.
We've talked about like AI branching off of a certain stem to figure out where you want to go with your conversations, but there's never going to be. I mean, good AI will never make that skip from we have one branch here to a completely separate tree. Like AI should not, for what we want AI to be, should not make a skip from a separate tree. So it should always be on that same branch idea thought you're trying to go down. So
AI is not a flying squirrel, is what you're saying.
bingo, it's not a flying squirrel. It's not going to bring you
it.
to a new tree.
That's exactly how I pictured it. Mark, do you ever use AI when you're creating?
No. In the music industry, that's a big thing that's happening right now. And it's not musically, but it's going to come down your road of who gets paid for this. If, with patents and stuff. Was this yours, or where did it come from, and how much do we have to pay you? And where music is like that, fortunately, it's still newer in music. It can help generate ideas. I get that. But the lyrics and stuff that are spit out right now are so bad, because it's still at its infancy stage. But just as a musician, and not to sound old, because there are new stuff that's happening. Music is supposed to be imperfect and supposed to be human feel, and that's what's going away. When everything's to the grid, perfect, we can take this out and fix that, and I like every kind of music. I'm prefacing this before, in case my son hears this, but he's, he'll always come like, oh man, check out the beats this dude created. It's like, he didn't create them. He's doing this. Yeah, he had an idea, but Neil Peart's over there going, I don't think so, brother.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, yeah. But that's the jux. You can use AI and those kind of tools to help you along the way, but too many people already are getting dependent on it. And that's where I think it's going to go over the cliff.
Are you talking about just from like a songwriting, lyrical
songwriting,
standpoint?
Production,
the whole nine?
Yeah, and it's going to go into movies and that kind of creation.
I've known there's a couple websites that you can build music beds essentially.
Oh, yeah.
And you can just like give it a vibe and like kind of move some stuff around. And basically, you can compose your own song.
It is
from what AI has already created.
Right. Well, even going back to like GarageBand, I'd have kids, hey, look what I wrote. No, you took this sample and put it with this, which, cool, your ear caught that. That's great. But that's not yours.
And I think I hate to use this guy as a good example for a good quote, because I'm sure he's learned from somewhere else. But
you're staring right at me when you said
no,
that.
No. An additional add-on, because this is a great
I thought
idea
he was
of
gonna say
how
Weird Al or something.
music. No, I would not. I would say it's Weird Al.
2 Chainz?
Like no, Dr. Phil. Yeah, it's a Dr. Phil saying something. I agree. What she's saying. The mentality of kids have moved nowadays from the doing generation to the watching generation, of watching people doing a bunch of crazy activities instead of going out trying to do it themselves generation. And a lot of music and activities, the popular music is going to be tailored towards that generation of people. So if you're watching the people that are on their phone watching all these huge YouTube influencers doing the materials, the music's going to catch them the same as not the people that are going out and doing the activities. So those quick, easy mixing, matching beats of people that are doing the simplistic stuff of saying, well, did you hear of this mixed with this? And then a big influencer says that's what we want to do. That's going to be more popular nowadays, which is tough for me to see.
I think that's a cycle, though. I
You
don't
think
think
so?
that's a final thing. I think everything's a cycle, because then, like, the generation after this Watcher generation will get tired of the Watcher stuff. They'll put out original stuff because they want something. I think everything has worked that way.
I think,
there is plenty of original stuff out there, but nowadays it's not coming to you. You have to go look for it.
Yeah.
It is there, though, in droves, but you have to go chase it down.
Yeah.
I was even going to say, like, there was rock and roll and there was disco at the same time.
Yeah.
And, disco was kind of formulaic. I mean, rock and roll was also, but at the same time, but there seemed to be more of, I guess, like more of counterculture or that thought process of like the actual doers that are going out and doing, experiencing that and then writing songs about it. And then disco's like, we're just having a good time. We're at the discotheque.
We're just going to party.
All songs are about dancing, whatever.
Yep.
So they're
and booties and boogies.
And booties and boogies. You got to get up, you got to get down.
Nice.
Where am I at? I don't know. I'm up, I'm down.
And when you're my age, it's like, well, I guess it's down.
I can't get back up. I'll just stay down here.
Hope, what do you think?
I would have to agree with pretty much everybody, but I do think it's squeezing out creativity for the most part. Right now in its infancy kind of stages, I think there is still, a lot of creativity that can be alive in the essence of AI and stuff. It can exist, at the same time. But I am scared to see where it goes. I think that it promotes laziness. I think artistic integrity is really, something that is going to just go out the window when this kind of starts becoming much more of a common thing, and it already is. I already see it happening, and all of us do. I'm scared to see how far into the same I don't know. There's not the unique factor is going to be gone because everything.
We're already at to the point where it's, hey, this works for them, so it must work for everybody.
Yes,
now that's making that even easier.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm just scared.
Yeah, there's even AI generated podcasts fully. AI generated, like the voices, the music, the whole thing put together. All you got to do is
Are we fully?
We are
AI?
not.
We are not.
What a
Okay.
funny
There is
prank
one.
that would
There
be.
is one from Hurrdat Media that is fully AI generated.
Really?
It's called Meowtown,
Oh gosh.
and it's all about cats. And
Shocker.
we just put in
Should we be saying this?
couple of things. No, it's very much.
Do they advertise that it's AI?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
it's
I'm
a
just
part
making
of
sure.
it. At least internally, I'm not sure. I mean,
We can always edit this out.
whatever.
Yeah, no, they're real
It's not a huge deal. Like, it was just like, here's the information we need to put an episode into, and then AI, which is so wild. It sounds just like a normal person reading. It doesn't sound like Microsoft Sam from back in the good old days.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a real person with real music put in there, and it blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
and it's also informative. It's about cats. Like, why do cats like catnip?
Yeah.
There's a whole episode on that.
Not answering that.
I honestly think it does really come down to one of the weirdest things with AI is going to come down to what is the reason for putting this up? Is it for financial gain? Is it going to be for creative integrity? Because there's so many people out there currently that are using AI to say, I want to put out this content onto a platform that is literally specific for tailored towards hitting their algorithm so it gets more views, I get more money for it. And that is in a completely entirable career path and market for a lot of people is just using AI to create this material that hits the algorithm. And instead of fighting the algorithm, which is what people are doing currently if they want to break into a new market, instead of saying, I am trying to be creative with the material that's out here. I'm not going to say it's a majority of people that are doing. If they're smart, they're trying to hit the algorithm because they have to get big. But if it's just that tough incentive of trying to hit the algorithm, I think is what I'm trying to say, and how that leans with creativity if they're trying to get their music out there. And that's just a really tough line I think we're all consistently trying to fight.
Okay. Stick around for side B. We're wrapping up here. Do you have anything else on it? Nope. Cool. So we stick around for side B because Mark is gonna play some original music here of his, which is great. So, final question: how long could the world continue if creativity stopped? Hi, welcome to Side B. And so you've heard all about creativity, and now we get to hear from the master himself a little bit of original Mark Irvin music. Mark.
I remember the night I got the news. They told me you were gonna be here soon. You took me by surprise. I broke down and cried. I held you in my arms and saw the light. Welcome to the world. We've been expecting you. We've got a lot of loving and living to do. Welcome to the world. Our little gift from above. So open up your heart. Welcome in the love. It took a little while to understand. Then I saw my finger tucked in your hand. It all became so clear. My doubts disappeared. I knew why I was here. Welcome to the world. We've been expecting you. We've got a lot of loving and living to do. Welcome to the world. Our little gift from above. So open up your heart. Welcome in the love. It's come full circle. It's come back around. I'm flying high with my feet on the ground. Welcome to the world. We've been expecting you. We've got a lot of loving and living to do. Welcome to the world. Our little gift from above. So open up your heart. Welcome in the love. Just open up your heart and welcome in the love.
Yes.
Thank you.
And so, Mark, that was for the birth of a son.
Yes.
Nice, very nice. And you can listen to Mark's music, I know, on Spotify. That's where I listen to it. Not to give it a plug, but it's great music. And that Side B.